Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Patrice, and in this video we will be discussing things I've read. And now let's get started. The first book I'm going to talk about today is titled The Sirens by Emilia Hart, and this is a fantasy magical realism / historical fiction. The summary says 2019. Lucy wakes in the middle of the night with her hands around her ex-lover's throat. She runs away to her sister's house, hoping Jess can explain the vivid dreams that preceded the attack, but Jess is nowhere to be found. Lucy reads her sister's teenage diary to find answers. 1999. Jess is a lonely 16-year-old diagnosed with a rare allergy to water. She's always felt different until her art teacher takes an interest in her that no one else has. 1800. Twin sisters Mary and Eliza are forced onto a convict ship bound for Australia. As the boat takes them away from all they know, they feel the water calling to them. So this book I did not really enjoy. I was a little disappointed. So the main thing that I liked about this book and why I picked it up is because it was going to have mermaids in it. Now, mermaids are like my favorite fantasy creature of all time. Splash is like one of my favorite movies. So when I read the jacket and it was like, oh, like it's just alluding to mermaids. They're like mermaids on the cover. I'm like, oh, I gotta read this. But the story that we got, like I was expecting more fantasy, more magic, especially when dealing with magical creatures, and it just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough magic or fantasy in this story for me. Some of the other things that I did not enjoy, the main characters were very, very irritating, especially Lucy. Like the girl whine and complains like throughout most of the story and just makes really dumb decisions. So from the summary, it tells you that she was trying to choke out her hookup. Like, and instead of facing the consequences, she decides to run away from school. And it's like, who does that? Like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, why would you do that? And she runs away to her sister, and it's like, how is she going to help you with that? What is she going to do about you choking this man? Like, it makes no sense at all. So, very irritating, Lucy. Jess is just unlikable, and she makes some questionable choices and decisions too in this story. And yeah, I don't know. There's also like a feminist slant to the story as well. So, like, the male characters are not portrayed in the best light, but one of them gets like a raw deal and he did not deserve it. So, I didn't enjoy that either. This story is written in 3 parts. The first 2 parts are slow to me, and I feel like the story picks up in the third part, but then it makes it seem like the ending is rushed because now we get all the action in the last part of the story, and it feels like now the author is trying to tie everything up, and like she could have slowed down a little. There were lots of descriptions of places and things that are not important. Like, I like that the story is set in Australia, um, just because that's like a new place for me to visit in my books. Like, the stories that I've read, I don't think any of them have taken place there. So, like, some depiction of the countryside and like um, some of the culture there, like, I enjoyed that. But then it just got to be repetitive, and we didn't need to know. Like for this story, we didn't need to know that. Like the things you should have been describing are like the mermaids and how they work and where they came from, and we didn't get any of that. So let me see. Oh, and the timelines, they kept jumping. So I already read in the summary, we got 1800, we got 1999, and then we have 2019. I enjoyed the 1800 storyline, like the storyline with the twin sisters and how they were on this convict ship and being taken to Australia because they were criminals that had committed a crime. I like their story. I wanted more of them and like what happened to them. The present story, or like the more like 2019 story with Lucy and Jess, I could not care less about. um yeah, give me more of the 1800s, the sisters. Like their story is compelling and much more interesting, and I felt like the author could have gone and done more with their story with like the fantasy elements than she did. So again, this disappointed me, but overall I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I'm going to talk about is titled The Silversmith's Puzzle, and this book was written by Nev March, and this is a cozy mystery. It is the third book in the Lady Diana Captain Jim series. I believe it's the third book. It may be the third or fourth book. But the summary says Lady Diana's brother Adi is accused of murder. Desperate to save him from the gallows, Captain Jim and Lady Diana rush back to Bombay. As Captain Jim peels back the curtains on Adi's business partner's life, he finds a trail of unpaid bills, broken promises, lies, and secrets. So I really enjoy this series. I like the characters. This story had plenty of suspects and twists and turns. The things I didn't enjoy, um, so I guess it's not that I didn't enjoy the book, I just did not like this entry into the series as I've liked some of the other previous books. This one wasn't as exciting, and I didn't particularly care for the resolution. Like, I did not like who the murderer was at all. I didn't like who it turned out to be, and I felt like the author didn't really give us like enough of their motivation for them to have wanted to commit this crime or for them to have committed this crime. Like it just didn't make sense to me. Like I could understand why she picked this person, but yeah, it just felt like it should have been someone else. And lastly, this story left us on a cliffhanger. And I say that just because, like, one of the biggest mysteries was unresolved at the end. Like, it felt like there was a mastermind to this mystery, and we did not get to find out who that was. So maybe in additional entries in the series, we will tie that up. But I don't like when they do that, especially in mysteries. Like, just clean it up, get it all done in one. But overall, I still gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I'm going to talk about is A Botanist's Guide to Society and Secrets, and this was written by Kate Khavari. The summary says, returning from Paris, botanical researcher Saffron Everly finds Alexander's brother Adrian being investigated for murder. A Russian scientist working for the English government has been poisoned and died in Adrian's train car. Alexander asks Saffron to help Adrian. Saffron's best friend, Elizabeth, war hero brother Nick comes to town. Saffron learns Alexander has a connection to Nick, who Saffron and Elizabeth begin to suspect is more than he seems. When another scientist dies, Saffron goes undercover, risking her career and her safety. She learns there are many more interested parties and dangerous secrets to uncover than she realized. So let me give you a little background. So Saffron Everly, like the summary says, is a botanical researcher, and she teaches and works at a college in England. And she has a coworker named Alexander, and they sort of have like some little sparks flying. Um, but they got into some sort of like little argument, and um, now she's kind of mad at him. She has a roommate named Elizabeth, and Elizabeth is she's like a working actress, and she and Saffron, they actually come from money, but they are trying to make it on their own, so they really don't want to use like their family's money, because their families kind of want to control what they do, and they want to, you know, like be a researcher or be an actress, which their families look down on. So they want to, go out on their own and do it their own way. So Saffron has solved a couple of mysteries, and Alexander, he doesn't want her to get mixed up in these mysteries, and Elizabeth kind of knows what Saffron is doing. So now that is where we're coming in to this story. So Elizabeth has a brother named Nick who is in the army, and he's come to town, and he and Alexander have some sort of relationship because Alexander also used to be in the army. We have these scientists that are dying, so they're trying to figure out like how or what's going on. And Saffron is trying to help out Alexander's brother because he's been accused of the crime. So the main thing that I liked about this book is that Elizabeth plays a big role in helping to solve the mystery, and I like Elizabeth a lot. Some of the things I didn't care for, I'm not really down with Saffron and Alexander getting together. Like, I don't feel any chemistry with those two. I would rather, she has another friend that's like a doctor, and I'd rather those two hooked up. And this story here, so I enjoy the series because it gives you like a lot of information on like flowers and poisons, and how plants can be used as a poison and stuff like that. So I like that because that's very interesting. But this mystery was kind of complicated. Like, it was a lot of science and a lot of background, and like at various points in the story, I'm like, who cares? Like, just kill somebody already. Like, that's what I want to know. Like, I want to figure out who done it. And it was just like a lot of gibberish about science and plants that just kind of went over your head. So I didn't really enjoy this mystery because it was kind of complicated. And there were a lot of characters to keep track of in this story. And like some of them at the end, it's like like we didn't need to know that. And then the resolution, they were sort of like, again, like in the Silversmith puzzle, where you felt like there was a mastermind. So like in this story, you feel like that too. And I guess I just didn't like the resolution because it feels like that part of the story is going to continue, and I would rather Saffron continues to solve mysteries at the college dealing with poisonous plants. Like, that's what I want to see. And now we're going off into the army and the government and like that kind of intrigue. And I don't want to read that. So I'm not sure if I'm going to continue this series. But I do really like learning about the plants and how they can be used. So overall, I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. So the next book I'm going to talk about is Moses, Man of the Mountain by Zora Neale Hurston. And this is a historical fiction, religion, folklore story. And I'll read the summary. Zora Neale Hurston takes the renowned figure of the Old Testament and blends him with the Moses of Black folklore in a powerful parable of faith, authority, and redemption. Moses' story begins on the Nile and follows his journey as a conjurer, leader, and ultimately an abolitionist, freeing fellow citizens and confronting the Pharaoh of lore. So I really enjoyed this story. So I wasn't aware that there was Black folklore about Moses. So that was very interesting. And like, I like the story because these are familiar characters, it's a familiar story, and I like Zora Neale Hurston's spin on the folklore and how she used it to kind of make us question like the story that we think we know. And I loved Moses's observations about people in life. I'm just going to give you two quotes that I pulled out. The first one is something that Moses says. He says, "The will to humble a man more powerful than themselves was stronger than the emotion of gratitude." And then the next one, he says, is the only time you run a great risk is when you serve them. The most repulsive thing to all men is gratitude. And he was just talking about the attitude of like people and how their attitudes shift and change. Like when you are doing something for them and they have to be thankful to you, and like they want to knock you down a peg because you're helping them. And so because they feel small, they want to make you small, is kind of what I was taking from his quote. So I just like his observations about people. Very, very interesting. And then I felt that the story mirrored some of the things that are going on today. So we have the Israelites who are oppressed, and that reminds me of like Black people and immigrants and the Palestinians and those things that are going on, and other, like injustices and people that are fighting against those things every day. And then we have a lot of government corruption in this story, which reminds me of today. And then like people loving you today and turning on you tomorrow. So yeah, like it's very timely for the things that we are currently seeing in our culture and just with humanity in general right now. There's nothing that I really disliked about this story. I just thought it was very, very interesting. I like the way that Zora Neale Hurston, kind of took what we thought we knew and like switched it and flipped it on its head. So I highly suggest that, you guys read this and let me know what you think. I really enjoyed it. And overall, I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. And there was another book. So I got like the companion to this story, and that is called The Life of Herod the Great, and also by Zora Neale Hurston. But that book I wasn't able to start, so I couldn't finish that one. I think I will have to check it out again. And um, because I'm interested in seeing like what that story would be about, because I think you would be getting like the reverse of this story with Moses. So Moses was like the abolitionist freeing people, and I think like Herod the Great is more of like you would be seeing like the story from an authority figure or someone from the government, even though they are in two different periods. So Herod the Great would be around the time of like Jesus and his birth and stuff like that. So I will pick that up again and let y'all know how that turns out. The last book that I'm going to talk about today is The Kind Worth Saving by Peter Swanson, and this is a thriller. The summary says, when Joan turns up at Henry Kimball's office asking him to investigate her husband, he can't help feeling ill at ease. He knew Joan in his previous life as a high school English teacher, when he was at the center of a tragedy. A simple case of infidelity becomes much more complicated when Henry finds two bodies in an uninhabited suburban home. Suddenly it feels as if history is repeating itself, and Henry must go back to one of the worst days of his life to uncover the truth. So I like this story because it contains some of my favorite newfound characters, Henry Kimball and Lily Kittner. And I did a review of another Peter Swanson book called The Talent for Murder. And then I realized that it was part of a series. So then I had to start from the beginning of the Henry and Lily series, and that was The Kind Worth Killing. So I finished that one, really enjoyed it, and now this is the second book, The Kind Worth Saving. So Henry and Lily are back at it, really enjoyed that. This one here, though, the pace of this one is pretty slow compared to A Talent for Murder and The Kind Worth Killing. So this one's a little bit slower, and the twists in this one aren't as exciting. Like, this story is a lot more predictable to me than the others. Like, The Kind Worth Killing, that had like a couple of twists in it that I don't think you could see coming, although that one was predictable as well, but it wasn't as bad as this one. And the two crazies in this one, like, they are like kind of too unhinged and evil. Like, even for a thriller, it's just like, why are you guys doing these things? Like, this is like bonkers. Um, I don't know, like there was nothing like redeemable about them. And I guess maybe that's not what you're looking for, because you want Lily to like get at them and do something to them. So, I, yeah, but they were just, it was just too much. They were like too over the top for me. Overall, I ended up giving this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. That's the end of this book review video. Let me know what you thought of these books and if you've read any of them. I would love to hear it in the comments. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.